is we are going to watch you do a CMA, and if we'll ask what you're thinking, or if you want to kind of tell us what you're thinking, and we're just going to watch and see how you do it. So you don't have to teach a class on it, but
just move through the idea.
Loud.
So
let us join Mike Hicks in his
There was
mind.
a property you were curious about, though.
Yeah, I just brought one here. There's one down on the number streets, but they've completely remodeled it. So I wonder how that changes the value. That's kind of what I thought.
I heard that on the radio that they did that down. Someone did that down on 8th Street, bought one of the older properties.
They're doing a lot of that. It seems like
tore the damn thing down and built a new 3-bedroom, 2-bath house down on it. Down there. I didn't get a chance to go by and see it yet, but I was like, that's not a bad idea down there.
Well, so if you're interested,
it's risk and return.
Oh, sure.
As much as it is.
Sure it is.
Anything, it's just whatever.
So if you're interested, I'll show you, because I thought, because in a flipper bought it.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that change the value if they bought 4 months ago,
real
low, and now it's all new?
It may be good to start with something more basic and then get to see
whatever you think.
Sure, we do it.
I just brought one in case. We'll watch whatever you want to do.
So, to me, maybe a classic example of doing this is we've got a lot of houses now that are built, Rockwell-built homes or Rockwell-style homes. They've been built in the past 10, 15 years. They're 1,250 to 1,300 square feet with a full basement and a 2-car garage. I mean, we seem to have them all over the place in varying conditions and some different configurations, and there are different builders within that particular price range. And so just as I think it's good to start at a spot where we might have a property that's got a lot more commonality in the market, so that we can see really what we're doing. So have you ever done a market analysis before?
I'm working on my scenario 1, so it's still
So you're in your first market analysis.
It's a work in progress, that's for sure.
You've owned a home before?
I own a home now.
Okay, good. So I'll give you some idea. So usually what I'm doing with anything, regardless of what property you're looking at, I start from a very generic standpoint as I'm searching. And the one thing we know in the market is in the end, there's really no two properties that are exactly alike. Even if they're the same house, if you have 5 houses sitting in a row, and all 5 houses are the same floor plan, maybe one's a lefty and one's a righty, but they're all 2-car garages, the whole thing, could all 5 of those have a different value? They're the same square footage, they're the same floor plan, the exterior is the same except the colors or what's on the outside might be different. They're on the same size lot, the whole thing. What would drive different values? What would drive different values?
Condition.
Yeah. Upgrades that the owners have.
Amenities. Yeah. One has an RV pad, another one doesn't.
Did somebody plant trees?
Yeah,
somebody didn't plant trees.
Right. One's got a fence, another one doesn't. If we're sitting down and we look at, let's say that we're sitting and we're looking at 10 different comparable properties, and all 10 of them have fences, and yours also has a fence. Is the fence a differentiating value item? Probably not, right? But if yours doesn't have a fence and the others do have a fence, is it? And if so, is it, let's say it would cost you $7,000 to put up the fence. Because you don't have a fence, does it drop the value $7,000?
I don't know if it drops at $7,000. Yeah, someone may pay the same for the house because they don't care about a fence.
Because of the other factors. Maybe the house has got granite countertops and a beautiful master bathroom, and there's other things going on with the house, or they don't have any pets and they don't have any kids and they don't care about the fence. Just lots of different factors. So usually in a scenario that we will have, one thing is that typically I have a rough idea of what a house is going to be worth based off of watching the market. So I know based off what I just mentioned to you as far as the house goes, if it's 1,250 to 1,300 square feet.
You're talking about that first level, not total, right?
Right.
Each floor. Got it.
So we've got a full basement underneath it, and the house is finished, etc. But we've been seeing those houses sell from between $225 to $250, maybe $260,000. Pretty wide range.
In that age range.
In that
10 to 15 year age range.
In that 10 to 15 year age range, which sometimes is what becomes one of our narrowing criteria. So when I start a search and I'm looking for properties, at this stage in the year, with the market we've got, first off is how far back do you go looking for properties? Now, appraisers can go back 6 months. We've got an appreciating market. How much per month are homes going up in value? Meaning if we look at a house that closed in November and we're doing a market analysis and we're using that November closing on a house that we're thinking about listing in May, how many months is that?
6 months.
6 months. If our values are going up 8% per year, how much of a value difference has happened from November to May? And so we have to watch that's nearly 4%.
Yeah.
So we have to watch how far back we're going. So typically right now, being at the end of March, I don't like to go more than 4 months in today's market. The only reason I'll go back further than that is when we get in the high end and we're looking for more comps. We just don't, in 4 months, we don't have enough comps. So we're trying to expand our criteria to get more property options to look at.
So are you always looking at the market? Are you always considering the market history prior to preparing your CMA?
The market trend, how active is the market? If we had if our market values were doing the historical 2 to 3% per year, 6 months is fine. But with the pressure we've got in the market today, not so fine. We've got to be a little bit more current.
Okay.
And the more current we get, the more relevant it is.
Right.
And so that's why it also becomes important to not just look at closed sales, but to look at pendings.
Mike, do you consider take into account summer versus winter? Will you go a few more months cover the winter?
I don't.
Okay.
The only reason I will is if I'm not getting a large enough pool of properties. So I'm going to tell you my idea about a market analysis. Many people come in. So I think one of the reasons Jessica asked me to do this is she knows that I'm a little bit different about this. I've got a little bit different twist in my approach. Most agents come in and they want to show people 5, maybe 6 properties at the most in determining value. And I believe, depending on which 3 to 6 properties an agent on their own chooses to select to use as comparables, that they can influence the value of a property widely, that it leaves the door open to undervaluing or overvaluing a property because we haven't considered it broad enough range. So when I'm sharing data with the seller, my objective is to share with him at least 20 to 30 properties. If I don't have at least 20 properties between closed and pendings to share with them, for most houses, if we're talking about $1 million home, that's different. We don't have that many. But in the meat of our market, which I would tell you is 400,000 and below, we should be able to get plenty of examples. And by showing them 20 to 30, they can go through this mental mindset of, oh, my house is bigger, better, and nicer. My house is bigger, better, and nicer. Oh, honey, look at that one. That one's getting kind of pretty close to ours. Oh, this one's pretty close to ours. Oh my goodness, look at that house, honey, and they sold it for that much money. And there's this transition that happens as you observe the properties. And people also get to see a little bit of the random nature of the market as well, because we'll have some homes that inexplicably sell for more than it looks like they should, or less than they should. Usually if they sell for less than they should, the truth is when people walk in the door, there's something going on with them.
Something you can't see in the pictures.
Something you can't see in the pictures, but you can definitely sense with your smell. Or the pictures are much like a portrait. If we have a portrait, we doctor up the portrait and our wrinkles go away. And when people see us, they wonder, how'd they get rid of all those wrinkles? Well, miraculously in real estate, our pictures very rarely show the defects. They just don't. And so then people walk in the door and what they're expecting, the pictures have over-delivered and the house is not meeting it. So we've got an under-deliver, over-promise situation, which is never good. So anyway, to go back to this, so in the scenario that we were just talking about.
So you expand your time? Time window, Mike, to come up with 20 or so houses?
will either expand time frame or loosen up criteria. So part of the process here is starting broad, narrowing, and if we get too narrow, opening back up again. So it's just a matter of adjusting, and so that's my particular goal, is to have that much. A lot of people will say, well, that'll confuse people. I actually rarely have to tell people what they should list their home for. It's uncommon for me to say, this is what you need. Most of the time they're saying, I'm asking, so what do you think your home is worth? Based off of what you've looked at, what do you think your home is worth? And I got to tell you, 90% of the time, they're just spot on. After they look at the information, I don't need to spend any time talking about the price. They're there already. All I need to do is talk about what we do to market and sell their home. So
Also, I think a lot of agents get too nervous to have them do the work. That's why I've always loved to watch you do it, because you'll let them see you do the work.
Oh yeah.
And everyone else comes with their work, and so they have to convince. But you are not doing that. Yeah.
Here it is. Let's see what we do.
You're so awesome. Thank you.
So we're gonna come in here and we want to see what's sold for between, we'll say 225. So I've said the low end to 225, and that should be a solid low end, but I want to make sure I don't lose anything. So I know that in my head, 225 to 260 is the range. There's no reason to go down to 200 because I know less than 225 is going to be lower than we need to go, but I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. So I'm going to go higher than I should. So I'm creating a very, very broad price bracket. And I'll do this even if I think a property is worth 250. I'll do this broad price bracket because I might be wrong. My impression might be wrong. And so I want to be sure that I'm also getting affirmation or not at the same time. So I'm looking for a single family home, and I want those that are closed. I'm looking in Bonneville County, and
will you go to Jefferson County?
Not.
What if it's in Iona?
Staying in Bonneville County.
Okay.
Jefferson County is a different market, just a different market. So we're looking for a one-story house, and it's got a 2-car garage. Now, our property that I've described also has a finished basement. So I want to get a substantially finished basement. So my method for manipulating that is I want it to have at least 4 bedrooms. Typically, if a home has 4 bedrooms, it's also got a family room, it's also got a bathroom, and at least 1 bedroom in the basement. And so I'm getting into that substantially finished range. And so that's my method of getting there.
Rather than going for a 90% finished basement or something.
And so the first thing I may do on this is that I don't want this house to be built, in this case, we'll say it's got to be built after the year 2000. And I know I don't want any new construction, so I'm going to exit the new construction. And so there's still some stuff selling today that was built in 2018 and it shows year of construction 2018. There's not much resale of 2018. And if you had a home that was built in 2006 and we lost a comp that was built in 2018, do we care? What do you think, Mike? Do you think your name's Mike, right? Michael. Do you think we care, Michael? House 2006 versus 2018? We don't really, because we're not going to compare 2018 against 2006 anyway, are we? Because that's a different house. Even if it's the same floor plan, it's a different house because how it's finished. So right now, as you can tell, I've done a really crazy broad price range. I'm staying in the county. It's just in Bonneville County. I've got a really crazy wide range of value, age, and I'm sticking to a 1-story and 2-car garage. And what's not here? Let me ask you, what's not here at this stage that a lot of people use commonly?
Lot size?
So this particular house is 1,250 square feet that we're comping. Notice I don't have anything about square footage.
Yeah, because people think that is a big value. Right. That's where they got to base it on the square footage of the house.
Right. Do buyers buy that way?
No. Bedrooms, baths.
So it used to be, I will tell you that it used to be that we'd walk into a house, one house is 2,600 square feet, another one's 2,800 square feet. And these engineers would tell me, well, there's a 200 square foot difference. So, at $50 per square foot, there should be a $10,000 difference in price. Why isn't there a $10,000 difference in price? Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the 2,600 square foot house feels big because of its floor plan, and the 2,800 square foot house is all compartmentalized. It's all cut up, and it's 2,800 square feet, but the thing feels tiny and boxed up and dark and all these other things. Which house are they going to pay more for?
Oh, the floor plan.
The floor plan.
Yeah.
The light, the bright, the open, so they're going to pay more for this one than that one. So I'm pretty careful about the square footage. It's a factor, and we do a per square foot analysis just to get a range, that's another topic. But so these are my criteria. But for now, I'm not using the square footage, and I didn't do this in advance, by the way. And often I have not done it in advance before I sit down with a client. I'm just doing it right in front of them. Well, I did something wrong, didn't I? I've got no matches. So something blew somewhere. Come back. Nope.
Did you not hit single family or something? It's weird.
Yeah, I hit single family. I've got single family closed, Bonneville. January 2019, price range.
You should have a ton of those.
There are a ton of those. So something's clicked here that shouldn't be. 1 story, 2 stall. Try it again. See if it just. Okay, we're going to input it again. Every now and then, the system will just check up on you, and you don't have any idea why it's doing what it's doing. So again, we're going to put in our range from 225 to 285.
I usually select that drop down months back. Does that make any difference to you?
The what?
You don't do it. The little drop down months back. I go 3 months. Is there any reason you go to the calendar versus? Okay, I just didn't know if there was something.
You can do it either way.
Okay.
It's just that I'm trying to go all the way back. If I go 4 months back, then it's going to go to December 26th or December 25th, and I'm wanting to be relevant to this year.
Got it.
So here's our single family. Oh, I know what it was. When I reset, it probably said active and not closed. And that's what it was. Oh, I'm in town. I don't want any acreages. So I'm going to put in something that stops the acreages from showing up. Want that basement substantially finished. 1 story, 2-car garage. Now let's see what we get. What is up? Naviga's having a hard time. Let me change this to list price. Oh, that's why. Wrong floor. That does make a difference.
Oh, because they had to have 4 on the main. I was going to do it the same as you and see that.
Okay, now we'll get some results. So there's 20 houses. So one of the first things that I do, because my head thinks this way, I arrange these in order of sold price. So I'm clicking on the column, the sold price column that you can arrange in price order. And so now it's going to rearrange everything based off of the price. And so this is a customized format. Everybody can set up whatever they want for these. This is a format that I've set up because I like being able to see the street address, what it was listed for and sold. So I can see list, sell, list, sell, list, sell, list, sell. And so when I print this out, people right away, because people are always thinking, especially sellers, well, we need to leave some room in this, right? We need to leave some room in this. And so when they see this list sell thing going on, they see that for the most part, there's not a lot of negotiating going on.
Interesting. So, that very first comp, did you notice it's at 120% finished basement?
Yeah. So the next thing I'll do is I'll come through and I will look at that basement. So this house somehow or another only has 40% of the basement done with 6 bathrooms. But because it looks like these two, the basements are not substantially finished.
Maybe they just finished just the bedrooms.
Could be. But because of that, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get rid of those because I want to see houses where the basements are substantially finished. I don't want to see this other stuff because it really is not relevant to what's going on. So I'm going to do that. And I may come down this column, and in particular, if I've been real liberal with the age and if I see something that is sold for a crazy lot of money, as I go down in here and I'm looking at the houses. So now I've got one that's come in at a real high selling price. So when we look at this, and I'm talking about a 1,250-foot house, so it's 2,500 square feet. Do I want a house at 3,300 square feet in that comp? I don't. So that house is not even remotely comparable, is it?
It's interesting that house, when you look just at those stats, interesting that would be that much.
Yeah, it is. So something
that
that
3 days on market.
Yeah. Well, it's 3,200 feet.
Yeah.
It's 3,300 feet. So that's still less than $100 a foot, and it's sitting in the meadows. So it's in a really good neighborhood. So here's the rest of this. And also with this format, when I can print out, I can show people the days on market real rapidly so they can see that, and it doesn't show up on anything else that they get. So it does show this information. Another thing that we can see here, and I like to leave this, as they may be thinking that their house is worth $270,000 or $275,000. They've talked about that. Well, when we look in here, what can we see when we get into this higher price? We see two things. The house is getting bigger, and what's happened here. Those that are bringing that higher value, they're much newer. And so this makes it really easy for us to show that, hey, the houses that are more similar in age than yours. And so I would rather show them more to help them eliminate possibilities of value for their place, because they can see that there's no way their 2006 house, unless it's got new everything in it, is going to compete with the home built 2016. So it eliminates that as well, okay, I guess my house isn't worth 275, is it? I've got to focus on all this other stuff. And when I've done this right in front of them, what do they know?
You're not fibbing.
I didn't manipulate anything. Not a thing. And in this case, the very first time I did search criteria, I'm focused in on really, I've got a good number of homes to show them. And I can show them the worst, and I can come up here and let's say that their home really is nice. It's really a nice house. It's really well done. And we can start comparing it to some of these others that are really nice and really well done. And so
Mike, can I ask you, while you're looking at that, when the seller's looking at this, because I see your seller concessions.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some that have and some that don't. Yep. Do you adjust value on seller concessions?
I don't.
Okay.
So what I do is I have the seller prepared for it. And again, when I have this screen, I print this out. So when they're sitting in front of me, this is a quick summary, and it doesn't give them the details, and it doesn't have the pictures and all that stuff yet. I just want them to see the overall information. I don't want to drown them. I just want them to be able to see this and teach them how to read this. And then when I'm sitting with them, we'll start looking at them online, and we'll look at them together. I also send the information to them, email it to them so they can go in it on their own time. So I'll email this very thing will get emailed to them with all the listings in it, so they can comb through, look at the pictures, look at the location, if they want to go drive by, whatever they want. I can tell you in my case, 95% of the listings that I list them 2 to 4 weeks before they come on the market. So when I actually list the houses, I'm actually listing without a listing price. 95% of the time, I list without a listing price. We establish the listing price after they finish doing what they're going to do to their house, because what they do to their house influences its market value. So today it might be worth $230,000. By the time they're done, it might be worth $255,000, depending on what they decide to do. And I don't know at the time that I'm listing it for sure what they're going to do when they've got time and doing all those steps. So now there's a button right here. So I've deselected a couple houses. So I'm going to add that filter, and what that does is it takes those houses out. And now I've gone from the 20 down to 17.
Mike, will you just real quick, if they wanted to arrange these, will you tell us where they go in to put the columns that they would like to see? Is it in the settings?
You customize it in Navico, and there's a how-to video.
Okay, I'll tag it in this video.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the how-to to create your custom format for how you want to read. And
because it's brilliant to get exactly what they need to see. It's awesome.
They're seeing the list price, the sell price, if the seller made any concessions, the style, the square footage, the bedrooms, bathrooms, how much of the basement's finished, the garage, year built, acreage, your lot's the same, and how long. Yeah. Now the last thing you can do here that I always love to do is come up here. If you've got this box checked right here, the all box, when that's checked, now you come up in here. One thing you can do is hit the show criteria, which it does the criteria. You can come down to the bottom and print it. So I like to do that as well. And so it tells them that, hey, using this criteria, there'd be 20. Now I can tell them, look, I eliminated 3 because the basements weren't done and one of them was too new, or too big. It sold for $330,000 because it was 3,300 square feet. So I got rid of it. So now I've told them why. And now they understand that our search criteria is very generic and I haven't done anything there. So if I'm emailing, I just do a copy and paste of this. If I'm going to be in person, then I print it out and I give them a copy so they can see it. And the next thing that we can do once we've got everything checked is we can come up right here to the stats. See right here where I'm highlighting the stats. And I click on the stats. And now this tells me the low list, tells me the average selling price for houses that came up in these 17. So the average list price was $251 for that group. The average selling price, the list to sell ratio, which goes to support there's not a lot of negotiating going on, and the average. It's interesting, it also tells us that a certain number of those houses had a price adjustment. And so I'm always showing folks this, and I'm printing it out so they see this as well.
I'm sorry, you shows that there was a lot of price adjustment?
No, it said right now what it's saying is against the original sold price, the average selling price is 96.5% of the original list price.
Oh, okay.
So homes that have originally listed for $275, their price reduced to $265, their price reduced to $260, and then it sold for $260. Okay, so it originally $275, right. Eventually ended up listed at $260. It's going to show up right here, list to sell ratio, 100%. Okay. But compared to its original list price, it sold for 96%, for example. Okay. So this is from the original list price. So we have a number that didn't list or didn't close. So, so another thing that I also like to do here, I'll click on this column, the days on market. I want them to see how long these houses have taken to sell on just in order. So it's nice being able to manipulate this and show people different things so they can get some gauge on what sold quickly and what didn't.
Which is awesome when you can customize this, because they still get to see the things that are important to them, right, regardless of how you resort it.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I'm back up 20 because I just went back and reset the search, so I would have to eliminate those again. But then what I'll do, we'll say that those are gone. I'll click those boxes. I come up here and I hit email. I'm choosing my format and I'm sending myself the email. And so I'll send myself this email. I'll give me a topic so I know what it is. You know, we'll call this class solds. And I'll email it to me. It'll send me a link. And I'll send it to my Gmail account. And so I've got that link. Now, so at this stage in time, with this situation that I've done, I've done the solds. So I've looked at the solds and I'm satisfied with the number. If I'd come up and let's say there were 50 solds that I got, 50 of them, I've got too many. What would I have done? What are some of the things that I could have done to narrow the scope? And what do you think would be the first items that I would go to limit my results?
Age?
Definitely.
Because there was quite a different age range.
I would bracket age.
Area.
Maybe. And in doing area, I might isolate. So let's say that the property that I'm evaluating is over in Calico Sky, way over on the east side. So I would probably eliminate anything from the west side and focus in on Idaho Falls High School, Thunder Ridge, and Hillcrest, and Bonneville High School. So I might eliminate Skyline if I wanted to. Yeah, could do that. Square footage is something you can do. It's one of my last options. When I'm really having a hard time getting it down, then I'll go to square footage. I like leaving the square footage there because, and again, this is a different section, but in a different time, I would show you this, but I take this and we drop it into a spreadsheet. So we drop it into an Excel spreadsheet, and that Excel spreadsheet just does the pure data part of it. So we drop it in, and it's doing the per square foot analysis, and it's going to give me a range of these 17 homes. This one sold for this much per square foot, this one, this one, this one. It comes up with an average, and I'm able to show the people, well, the highest one sold for this much per square foot. When applied to your house, that's the absolute high price range, indicated price. This is the absolute low, and this is the average. Since we know your house is at least average, then we know the range is going to run from this average price to this maximum price. And so it helps us build a range to work within that range. And so that's what the spreadsheet is for. Now, there's different ways to do that. A lot of, there's Cloud CMA, there's Navica CMA, there's Brivity CMA. I mean, there's all kinds of CMA programs that you can use to present a pretty CMA. I don't do a pretty CMA. I mean, I just give them the data. There's nothing pretty about it. It's just down and dirty, and it's kind of like me. I'll just show you, and you start to decide.
We've been trying to teach them that a CMA isn't a packet. A CMA is the analysis.
The CMA
It's not handing them something. Right. You can decide to hand them something, but it's the analysis.
So the next thing that I'm going to do with this is I want to check pendings. I want to see today, what does it look like is going on today? Because I've got a value that may look like it happened from this other result, and I want to see what's happening with pendings. Now, Michael, why do you think I would want to see pendings?
Well, you want to see the competition. You want to see that you're putting that price, within a reasonable range of what else is on the market.
So pendings, are they on the market?
No, excuse me.
Okay.
But you see what has been offered. Excuse me.
So I'm seeing what's under contract today, which means what? They've sold when?
Within a short period of time.
Yeah, they're the most recent indicator of value, aren't they? The very most recent. Now, do we know what they sold for? We don't. Why not?
Confidential information, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting.
Well, the deal's not done.
So during negotiations, I mean, it is that offers don't have to be held confidentially, though I will tell you in this market, 99% of the time, nobody's talking about what other offers are. It just doesn't happen. Other markets, if you're in Boise, it's kind of a field day. But here, typically not. The market believes it's a little unethical to be doing that, so we don't. Because people, if they wanted to go to an auction, they go to one. They're not doing this to be in an auction.
Right.
So typically they don't. But we know that the price was close enough to satisfy a negotiation, don't we? So the only thing I've changed at this stage, I've got list price. So the only thing I'm changing now is closed to pending. So all the criteria are identical. And now I want to see what's going on today. And isn't that something? So how many closed sales did we have in the past 4 months?
20.
There were 20. I eliminated 3. But now using the very same criteria, how many are pending? 16. Wow. So those 16 pending right now today are almost equivalent to the 20 in the first 4 months. Is there any indication about what's going on in the market by seeing that? And is it important for a buyer to know that as well as a seller? For sure, it is. So the buyer
that tells me there's not necessarily a lack of inventory. It's selling fast.
It's just selling.
It's
okay.
selling.
So let's see if you're right. How would we do that? Because if I was sitting with the seller and I said, so what do you think this means? And the seller said, well, Jessica just did. Now I'm going to go over here and say, well, let's see. So of these houses, of these 16 houses, this is how long it took them to sell. Is that impressive or not? Is that quick or not? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of them sold in the first week they were on the market. 9 in the first 2 weeks, and then time after that. But the longest one, look at that, 63 days. So this also is an important point when you're talking to a seller, saying, so guys, today pending, the one that's been on the market for the longest is 63 days. So you should understand, Jessica, that means for you as a seller that if we don't get an offer on your house fairly soon, because of these 16, 9 of them sold in the first 2 weeks. So over half sold in the first 2 weeks. So if we don't have a good solid offer in your home in 2 weeks, what does it mean, Jessica?
We're overpriced.
We may not be priced to the market. We need to change price or condition, or maybe not. We should be getting a lot of showings. We should be getting offers. So if we're not, so the maximum period of time we should be taking is 10 to 14 days to adjust our price if we don't have an offer. It's your decision, Jessica. I'm just letting you know this is what the market does.
And it's hard to argue with Mr. Hicks when he's staring at it right there.
So, but see, what's saying that? Am I saying that, or is the data saying that?
Right.
See the difference?
Yeah.
All I'm doing is upchucking.
Well, that's what you really want to be, is the facilitator of the information.
Yeah.
You don't really want to be the...
So Mike, what's interesting that I thought of when I looked at that, I thought, oh my word, my house is going to sell super fast. But when you said, so what this is saying is, when do you think we should be getting, then I went,
if you're not sold in 2 weeks, what does that mean?
What does that mean? I liked how you said, what does that mean? Instead of just saying it means.
Right.
Yeah, that was really good.
And so I'm doing that because
really
who do I want to be doing the talking?
Yeah.
And who do I want to be discovering the answer? The more they talk, the more they discover, and it's not me discovering for them. Then what happens is after 10 days, their house isn't sold and they've had 15 showings. Instead of being duped into the fact they've had 15 showings and the house is priced right, they're saying, Mike, we've had 15 showings and nobody's made an offer. Do you think we've got a pricing problem? Or, I mean, what do you think? Right. What do you think we should do? And see, they actually instigate that discussion rather than you having to do it. And the whole thing happens easier. They are waiting for you to tell them what to do rather than you trying to figure out the opening to tell them what they should do. See, they're into curiosity now because they know that
I would be worrying if I was your seller. I would have been worrying about at day 5.
Yeah.
I would have started thinking about that.
But see, it's the data that's driving this. Okay, so again, notice when I did this, what did I do? To arrange this was the first thing truly that I really wanted to do. Okay. Now, I went to the days on market because Jessica, my seller, said, well, everything is selling fast. That's what it tells me. 16 right now today versus 17 in the first 4 months. I mean, it's really fast. It's really hot. How good for me? I'm saying, well, yes, but what else does it say? Let's look. So I agreed, but yes, what else? But now I got rid of that, and now I want to look at list price because as we sit down and we start looking through, I want it in price order because, again, if we're bouncing around, people are having a hard time connecting. So each one theoretically gets a little bit better than the last one. And I'm trying to create that situation where, oh, my house is bigger, better, and nicer. My house is bigger, better, and nicer. Well, that one's okay. Oh, gosh, look how big that house is compared to ours. And so we want to allow that discussion to happen. And the only way that'll happen when they're on their own time researching these listings is if they're in order and you can help their mind move to that. So this is a very important step that you want to be sure to remember. Anybody that catches this video later, remember this. This is critical. Whether it's sold or list price, if you've got the solds up, arrange it by sold price. If you've got the pendings or actives up, arrange it in list order price. You definitely want to do that. Now, I'm dealing with an in-town property.
Now, are you doing that top to bottom, low to high or high to low?
Low to high.
Low to high.
Yep. I'm building that scenario to where, because I want them thinking, my house is bigger, better, and nicer. I want them there first. And I want them to have that transition of, oh, okay, maybe that house is nicer than mine. It's bigger than mine, or it's in a better location than mine, or whatever it is. So So one thing, again, I'm in town. So this is a property sitting up in Yukon. So you know what? I think I'm going to peel that puppy out of there. And I'm also going down here. Oh, we got a house without a basement or with no basement. One of it's got a basement. Well, now what do I see here? 6 bedrooms and 3 baths and no finish in the basement.
That's wrong.
Something's up. But one thing I know is the information's not consistent. There's something wrong here, and I don't know what it is. So rather than assuming, I'm going to take it out.
Or have to try and figure it out.
Or I can make a call. But see, I'm doing this. I don't have time to call because I'm doing this with Jessica, the seller, on the fly. And so I'm going to say, guy, I don't know what it is. So let's just take it out of the results.
There's enough other results.
There's enough other results, right? So now
And you only knew that was in Yukon, Mike, because you know that, because in your mind, you already know where it is.
Right. I know where it is, but you could have looked at the address to know that. But yes, I know 108 North is not an in-town address. So that's why I knocked
Which is also a tip for us. Everybody watching the video, you got to know your inventory. You got to be familiar.
Know your market. So Michael, where do I go to get rid of these now so I only have the ones I want? Where do I go to do that? What was it called? What am I trying to, what is the nature of what I'm doing is I'm what? Filtering?
Right, the filter.
So I'm going to go up here. It says add filter. That's really a weird name for it, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click that, and now I've got my 14. So how many did I have before? And how many do I have now? And how many did I say that I'd like people to see? 22, 20 to 30 at a range. So am I inside the range? If I send them all this, is it too much?
No, would you broaden to get 20?
So the only other thing I would do is if I come here and I look at my high range, that's the next thing I'm doing. I want to look at my high range to see if it's going to distract them or if they'll look at this and say, oh, crap. Well, it's about the same size, but it's built in 2013. And so they know it's 10 years, again, nearly 10 years newer. So it's showing them the impact of age. But there's also one in 2015. It's also slightly bigger at 275. So I kind of like these here because they keep the seller realistic for their home that's built in 2006. If I felt like this was too much information, if the answer to the question was, am I sending them too much? And the answer he felt like is yes, age is the next place I'm going. I want to try to bracket that age down. So I've got them focused within that age group.
So Mike, age. What is too old or too young to include for you?
Well, a little bit of it has to do with the age of the property. If we're looking at a home built in 1950, our range is really pretty big. But for the most part, and again, this is market familiarity, there was design change, color change, finish change. We started seeing more of this, the grays and the shaker styles and some of that stuff inside houses around 2013 to 12, 13 in our market. So most of those houses are going to look and feel different than something built before them. They just have a different feel.
So you don't have a good cut and dry. You just learned this over time.
You just learn. You have to have some instinct, and you
Say
can look at the pictures.
Microphone, guys. This is art, not science.
Well, and you know what?
That's what I'm gathering.
Right.
It's more of a.
Well,
there is no true map for doing this.
Well, here's the reason that you look at the listings. So now we've got to look at the listings to try to explain some of these differences. So the house that I was describing in the beginning, it's Formica. It's built in 2006. It's Formica countertops. It's got some brass light fixtures. It's got a little bit of wallpaper. Carpets are not new for sure. And now we're starting to look at the pictures, and through looking at the pictures, people will say, "Wow." And now you start getting questions. So, Mike, do you think we should replace our carpet, or should we paint, or should we, well, Jessica, it depends on your motivation. You have to understand, we can come into your home and we can spend $5,000 to $10,000, and you'll theoretically at least get your $5,000 or $10,000 back. You should get more, but we can't guarantee that. What you will know is that your house sold, and maybe it sold faster, but you're not going to know if you got your investment back. So if it's important for you to know you got your investment back, right?
You might as well not invest and take the lower price. It's still a net wash.
Right.
And
But there are certain things you can do. We know paint pays dividends 2 to 3 times. Paint is a 2 to 3 times every time. When a house needs painted, paint it. When it needs cleaned, clean it. That kind of thing. So, and
so at some point, are you asking the seller? So after you've looked at this data, what do you think, if anything, is there that we need to do to your home?
Have you ever watched Property Brothers?
Oh, yeah.
On TV?
Oh, yeah.
So when they go through the house and they walk downstairs in the living room, and he says, so tell me about the price range of what you want to buy. What do you want, and what's your price range, and where do you want to live? Right. And people tell him all that, and he says, okay. And he doesn't say you're dreaming or anything else. Right. He just says, okay. And then he says, so tell me, what do you think your house is worth? The way it is right now today, unimproved, what do you think your house is worth?
Right.
Now, you should have had that discussion before you got with your people to do what I'm doing. You should know that number before you're doing any of this. You should know that number before you do any of this. You got to know what their expectation is, because that helps you have empathy with them when they're starting to look at this data, whether they're spot on, and you can reinforce and say, guys, clearly you're spot on, or guys, you really need to look at this really closely to see what we might need to do to your home to get to the range that you want to be, or we just sell it as it is and let's look at where the value might be there. But again, we're showing them the data. I'm not debating with them about their value. What's debating with them about their value? The data. And again, when there's a lot of it like this, it becomes hard for them to argue.
So is it fair to use that with Mike on my scenario?
Give it a shot.
So here we go. So what's the other thing that I do here at this stage? What's the other thing that I want to know? I want to know
looking at basements.
I want to know the stats.
Oh, the stats.
So I've already filtered.
Oh, you already filtered that.
I've already filtered, right? I already know what my stats are because I did the first time. Stats are the same. So I mean the search criteria, which is this button. So I want to know the stats. And now what do I find out? Well, look at that. What's the average sales price with these 16 properties? What is it? What's the average? $261. What was it before? On the closed, what was it with the closed? 251. There's a 10,000. There's a 10,000.
It was the highs. I can remember.
2,000. There's a $10,000 difference there for some reason. What was the days of market before?
46. Yeah.
46. What is it here?
21.
Oh, my great day in the morning. What's going on? But see, it's a difference. And so we have to be aware that son of a gun, this is why I like the pendings versus just the solds. Because now there's a little bit of difference.
Of course, though, these haven't closed.
These haven't closed. We don't know what they've sold for. Yeah. But it appears that we've seen a little bit of a change.
But they've gone, but an offer's been made and they're in the process.
So I love to look at this information. So we're missing that other
And this
part.
is more recent than your closed. This is the most recent.
This is the most recent. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, kind of interesting how that all works through. Okay. So the only time, I mean, I do look at the actives, not a lot. So actives mess people up. Why would actives mess people up? So we're going to see what's on the market. Now,
those can be the pipe dreamers.
They can be the pipe dream. Now, I'd like to know how much competition there is. So how many homes are on the market today? 9. How many are pending?
16.
How many are on the market? And how many are pending? So what does that mean? Now, one thing I could do if I wanted to, in my search, I've got all this criteria sitting in here. I've got my price range. I can go in here and I can say, maybe, I want to see what's gone pending, how many have gone pending this month in this price range in Bonneville County with these criteria. Or if I want to go back a month. So let's say if I wanted to go back a month, what's today? What's today?
25th.
25th of March, or April.
Okay. So if we wanted to have 30 days worth of sales in this price range of pendings. So by the way, our MLS always hits this active. So we're going to want this field to be blank. What I'm looking for is how many went pending. Some of these pendings may have closed. That's why I've eliminated closed from here. I just want to see.
So if you uncheck pending, it will show any that have gone pending, not that are currently pending.
Right.
Ooh.
And this is the hot sheet. This is the hot sheet I'm doing.
Oh.
So what I'm trying to do now is find out. So we've got 9 on the market, and we've had 12 sell in the past 30 days in this price range. In this criteria, not price range, but in this criteria.
So 4 were more than 30 days.
Yes. But these 12 were in the past 30 days. So there's 12 versus 9 on the market. So this means we've got roughly 22 days of inventory on the market. That is not much, is it? 22 days.
Mike, tell Michael what that means when you say how many months of inventory or how many days of inventory.
So a balanced market, what we call a balanced market, is 6 months. If our days of inventory, our absorption rate, our days of inventory, how long it takes based off of the number of listings we have. So let's say that we had.
Now, when you say days of inventory, is that
days
on the market?
I'm going to tell you that. So if we have 30 houses on the market today, 180 homes on the market today, and we're selling 30 per month, it takes 6 months to sell our current inventory.
Right.
That's a balanced market.
Okay.
We've got 22 days in this price range on the market. What kind of market is it? A buyer's market or a seller's market? Who's got the upper hand? The seller or the buyer?
I'd say the buyer.
Absolutely. The buyer's got the upper hand. I'm sorry,
The
not the
seller.
buyer, the seller.
So,
It's a seller's market because what? There's not enough houses.
Less inventory.
There's less inventory. The more inventory you have.
low inventory,
Means the seller has the advantage.
the seller has the
Because then the seller says, I'm not going to sell for that. And there's not enough other houses out there.
Yeah.
For them to go, well, I forget you, I'll go to another house. The seller has the advantage. When there's a ton of houses sitting out there,
Right.
the seller has to say, well, they could go buy another house.
Right.
So I've got to give
Right.
them what they want.
Okay. Okay. That
Okay.
makes sense.
So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to really quick. It's time for us to wrap up.
Yep.
So I'm going to go back through the first scenario. I'm going back to the closed sales. I'm going to go back to the first one and really quickly wrap it so everybody sees, again, the things that I do. So we've got our same criteria in there. I need to get rid of our hot sheet stuff. It's going to burp on me. Backspace. Now I'll start my search. So we should come up with our 20 houses again, unless something's happened in the MLS in the past 30 minutes. So we've got our 20. First step, I'm arranging them in sold order. Second step, I'm scanning to see how many of these homes have finished basements or not. So I'm going to check my box here to select all the houses, and if it's not got a substantially finished basement, I'm going to get rid of it. And at the same time, I'm going to slide down to the bottom to go to the most expensive closing and say, uh-oh, that thing's 3,300 square feet, sold for a buttload of money. Obviously, it's not competitive to my 2,500 square foot house, so I'm eliminating it. Now I'm going to come up and I'm going to click my Add Filter. I'm down to 17 houses. Go. So I'm down to my 17 houses, okay? Now if I'm sitting with somebody, I'm going to come over and I'm going to click this Days on Market. I want to see what's going on here. How fast were they selling, just for illustration's sake, for the closed sales, which, by the way, was vastly different than the pendings.
Yeah.
Vastly different. So I'm going to go back and rearrange it in sold order. I'm going to come up with this fancy little button up here and I'm going to print it. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit my show criteria. I'm going to print it.
And you said when you're doing this live with Jessica, Mike, do you have your own printer with you? Or
If
are
you're-
you
This is a good
printing
point.
to file
I'm in the office 9 times out of 10 doing this.
when you're talking? Oh, okay.
I'm doing it in front of them, and I'm going to say, would you like to change what we're searching for? Anything you want to change?
Right.
Anything you want to do? Whatever you want to do.
Mike, have you seen their house yet?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I've been.
Oh, you've been to their house.
Typically,
Okay.
I've been to the house. Now,
Okay.
I may do some of this beforehand. I may have this all ready to press a button and send to them so they can look at it. The thing that's different about my database, 100% of what I do is repeat and referral. I don't handle really any cold business, so it changes the tempo just a little bit for me that everybody doesn't get. But again, information is king, and now you still got to do your marketing. But I like to do a lot of this. Usually when I'm going over this, they're in my office. I've been to their house. When I leave their house, I've set up an appointment. They're coming to my office. I've got the listing documents ready to go, and they'll sign them. Sometimes they'll sign them when I go on that first listing, even before I brought them to the office to do the value, because I don't want them listing with me because they think I agree with them on what the price of their home should be. I want them listing with me because they believe I'm the best one to help them sell their home. And so now I'm going to have this printed out, but again, in front of them, I'm showing them, I'm just saying them, hey, here's what all these columns say. This is what it means. And here's the list, sell, list, sell, list, sell. So Jessica, you can see pricing your $250,000 house at $265,000 is not a good strategy because there's just not that much negotiating going on. So we need to be a little bit closer to value. Okay. And then at the end, I'm going to click on this. I'm going to hit this little email button. And I'm going to select my format that I want to send in. I'm going to email it to me. I'm going to name it here, Jessica Solds. And I'm going to send it either through Gmail, or if you've got a Gmail account, that works slick, or the Navica mail system, which also works just fine. Although sometimes the Navica email will get stuck up in your spam and sometimes blocked. So you've got to watch that. So, and the reason I'm sending it to me is that I want to send it to them. I don't want to send it to them direct out of Navica. I want to send it to them off my email address. And so I'm going to remind them of the criteria. Here's the results. Have fun looking at this. Go drive by the houses. Go look at this. Look at the pictures. If there's any other searches you want me to do, whatever.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Obviously, you're going to have a larger base of data for homes built 5 to whatever many number of years ago. What do you do when you have a newer home that's been built, say, in the last 5 to 6 years, such as this? You may not end up having 20 to 20 or 30 houses.
You get as many as you reasonably can. And again, some of it's to prove the opposite of what I said before. Well, your house is definitely more than this, Mike, because look, these houses built in 2006 and 8 and 9 are selling for this. Your home built in 2013, it's more current, you got more relevant colors, so we know we're higher than this.
Right.
So we're going to be dealing up here a little bit. So when we look at our averages and the high, we're going to be working with you more to the high end of our range.
Okay. All right.
So it applies the same, just
in reverse. Essentially.
Yeah. And you're going to find with our market, up to about 500, there's plenty of comps. Getting comps is
The hard
not a
comps are when
challenge.
you're going to get further outside the city and they're more unique, rural and bigger. That's when you get a little bit harder. Yeah. Awesome, Mike.
So
fantastic.
Anyway, that's the idea.
Fantastic. And I will post this in the productivity coaching group, and I'll link to where the training video on how he customized.
Yes,
because people will love that.
Yeah, because I've looked at Navica's training videos, and wow, talk about giving you a headache.
Yep.
Let's see. It's not going to save my stuff in there, is it?
It doesn't. If you hit add account, you can remove it if you'd like. Click on add account in the lower left. And then you should be able to go down below and We'll find it. They don't save it. We have it set up to not save the passwords in there.
Okay.
So I would just say sign out.
Okay.
I'll
Hopefully
go
that
and
helped.
remove them too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. You were